Welcome to Minor League Matters. Today we are going to do what we do at the beginning of every year of baseball season. We're going to go through the minor league baseball teams that change their logos and names and colors and all that sort of stuff, and we're going to rate them from worst to first. And there are 11 of them this year, so let's get cracking. Okay, so every year I do this and I use the same criteria each year. There are 5 criteria, up to 5 points for each of the criteria, and then it's averaged out to get a score. The 5 criteria are the name, the color scheme, the actual logo on the hat, right? How it looks on the hat, attractiveness, and whether or not the name and the logo track with each other, whether you could tell the logo is the name. And then, like I said, they get averaged out. So let's start out with the worst. And the absolute worst this year is from the Rocky Mountain Vibes. Here's this. It is a horrendous logo. The name's not too bad, but the logo is just bad. I mean, looking at that, it's a s'more. It's a walking s'more giving the peace sign, wearing sunglasses. The other logos, secondary type logos, where it's going to be a marshmallow that's on fire on a stick, because somebody obviously doesn't know how to brown marshmallows over a fire. And then there's a marshmallow that's got a bite out of it that's on fire on a stick. I think that may be meant to be a C, like Colorado, but it's just not good. So let's go through it all here in the score. As I said, the name's not terribly bad or terribly good. It's just kind of a name 3, straight down the middle. The color scheme, again, not terribly bad, not terribly good. They could have chosen a more, pop kind of color scheme, especially since fire seems to be their primary thing. Could have been a brighter red and yellow to be more on the fire. I'm not sure why the whole faded colors thing is such a big deal, but they went with it. And so it's just a 3, solid down the center. Then we get to the points of problems. Looking at the cap, and I've got it pulled up, looking at the cap and trying to identify that as the team's name, with the team, it's just terrible. Their primary home cap is the walking s'more. It's walking and giving the peace sign, and it's on fire, and it has sunglasses. It's bad. I mean, it's just really bad, and it's not a good or great cap or anything. It's just not good. I gave that a 1. The attractiveness, there's nothing here that's terribly attractive. The bat that's on fire, actually it's just a stick that's on fire, could be worked up to be a little bit more attractive, but the rest of it's just not. It's not attractive at all. It's a 1 straight across the board. And IDing the name with the logo, do they go together? No, they do not. What does Vibes got to do with a walking s'more? Nothing. Or any of the marshmallows are on fire. Nothing. They don't have anything to do with each other. So if you looked at this logo, you would never associate it with this name. It's just terrible. And yes, I know some marketing genius out there has sold it to them on the idea that you purposely have a bad logo because that'll make people kind of feel like they're rebels and they're getting this logo and they're going to stay with it. It'll be the Montgomery Biscuits or the Chihuahuas all over again. No. There will be a bump in sale because there's always a bump in sales when a new logo and all that's put out or a new team comes out. But, do you really see kids walking around wanting to have a hat with a walking s'more on it and wearing it around? I don't. I think it's a mistake, but they all get talked into these kind of things. Maybe 2 or 3, 5 years down the road, it'll be rebranded or moved. Who knows? Overall, the Vibes get a 1.8 average score, the lowest score this year. In 10th place are the Amarillo Sod Poodles. I kid you not, that's the name they chose. Apparently, Sod Poodles is some sort of local dialect name for gophers or something, some such thing. So they went with this. Another mistake, probably again sold as being, well, it's something local. People will rally around it. And yeah, I know it's not the greatest logo. Although they didn't seem to be trying to get an absolutely terrible logo here. They just seem to be off. Looking at it, this Amarillo, the name, I gave it a 1 because Sod Poodles speaks for itself. It's just a bad name. Or they're going to use Saudis as their other name across it, across the uniforms, jerseys, whatever. No, it's a bad name. I know you think it hooks into something local, and it may work, maybe, perhaps, but nah, unlikely. 1. Color scheme, anything having to do with Texas is going to have red, white, and blue somewhere in it because of the Texas flag. And they do have that here. I think that their color scheme is got the red, white, blue in it, although I'm not sure. It may be blue with brown outline. That seems to be what they're going with on the actual words. And I would think it was maybe meant to be gold, except for I'm pretty sure it's meant to match the colors of the fur on the gophers or whatever. And you're not going to see too many of those with gold fur. So it should be brown, I guess. And the blue and brown is not a great thing. 3, just dead average. Nothing else to it. IDing on the hat. What's it look like on the hat? Can you easily ID what it's supposed to be for a team? I mean, it's the head popping up out of the ground, one you can see here, and you know the gopher has a piece of wheat in his mouth and a hat on his head and an A on the hat, and it's just not a great hat at all. It's a 2. I mean, you have to know what it is to know what it is, really. Attractiveness, again, a 2. The only real thing of all of them that's halfway decent is the circle one. That's okay. And, you know, if you stretch, the one in front of the state of Texas is okay, and the one standing next to the A is kind of okay. You kind of got to stretch to get there on those. It's not great. This is a 2. IDing the picture, the logo with the name. You know, you look at the logo and you're trying to figure out what kind of critter is that. And, okay, maybe you figure out it's a gopher or whatever it's supposed to be eventually. But would you figure out that that meant the team name was Sod Poodles? Again, local dialect may call them Sod Poodles. That doesn't make it a good title for your team. Overall, the Sod Poodles averaged out at a 2, and that put them just barely ahead of the Vibes, although I think there is a clear distinction. They are better than the Vibes. But it's a 2, and that makes them the 10th. At number 9 are the Las Vegas Aviators. You see it here. It kind of looks like a guy who's supposed to be some sort of bug superhero or bug or bee superhero or something like that. It's really kind of poorly drawn. I'm kind of surprised that they went with something this kind of poorly drawn, to be honest with you. Now the name is solid. The name's 5. I think the Las Vegas used to be the 51s and have, you know, the alien picture. They've moved away from that now, and that leaves the Roswell invaders as the ones with the alien picture on their uniform, which I always thought Roswell did it better anyway. But okay, so now we're with the Aviators. The name's a solid name. I just gave it a 5. It's a really good name. The color scheme, the kind of faded, from orangish to yellowish is, okay. And the blue there is fairly solid. So I gave it a 3 color scheme, right? I'm not sure what's with the fading colors all of a sudden everywhere, but I mean, you've been able to do that on either GIMP or Photoshop for years, guys. I don't know why it's a fad now. What's on the cap, how you can ID it, whether you would be able to ID it, and whether you'd want to wear it. They went with the face on the cap, right? In the home cap, it's the face that looks like some sort of space alien bug superhero. And that's on the cap, and it's just not a good cap, folks. It's not, and just don't see it being worn that much, to be honest with you. Gave that a 1. Attractiveness, a 2. I mean, it's, there's the LV that's on the one cap you see. That's kind of okay, although I don't know why they've got the fading from one color to another thing going on. Make one letter one color, one letter the other, something that works out and it's pretty bold, attractive. Not this. The face is just not attractive. It's just not. It's a poorly drawn, and no. So attractiveness is a 2. And IDing the picture with the name, I get it. This is supposed to be a pilot, except it's a really poorly drawn one, and I wouldn't know that this was a pilot. I really wouldn't, looking at it without the logo, without the thing saying Las Vegas Aviators. I wouldn't know this is a pilot at all, and for that reason, I gave it a 2 as well. It's kind of in the ballpark, but it's just not really there. Overall, the Las Vegas Aviators got a 2.6, so they're kind of a step up from what we had on the others. But still, not all that great. At number 8 are the Wasco Reserves. This is a team, I think it's a new team to the Pecos League. It's scored the same as the Aviators, but I think it's a slightly better. I mean, at least the picture's drawn better. So I left it a little bit above them, made it number 8. The name, the Reserves. I mean, it's kind of a generic name. I'm not sure what it means. Reserves can mean all sorts of things. It could mean, some sort of bourbon that's been, Woodford Reserve or whatever, right? It could mean people serving in the military. It could mean all sorts of things. Oil reserves, whatever. I'm not sure what reserves means, and don't have any idea how it ties to a duck. Okay, so I just went with the 3. It's a fairly generic name. The color scheme, the kind of washed out blue with the purple. No, it's not a good color scheme. I'm sorry, it's just bad. So it got a 2. The cap, I looked at the cap. It is a purple cap with the purple duck on it. The bill doesn't seem to be blue on the cap, seems to be white. It's a pretty decent cap. I could wish for a little bit more discrimination between the colors, but I just gave it a 4. It's a fairly solid cap. Attractiveness, a 3. It's not one way or the other. Doesn't blow you away, but it's not terrible either. The color scheme drags it down, while the actual artwork, the duck that's got the baseball stitching across its head, is pretty good. And does the logo describe the name? No. Unless there's some sort of reserves of ducks somewhere out there where we're in Wasco. No. Oh wait, reserves could be some sort of preservation, some sort of place like that. I don't know. It's just no. I gave it a 1. You wouldn't know by looking at the duck that it was the reserves. So that's where it averaged out 2.62 as well. But like I said, it was slightly better than the Aviators anyway, so I moved it above it. At number 7 is the High Point Rockers. This is a new independent, Atlantic League team coming into existence in North Carolina. Seems to actually be making it. I don't know. The Atlantic League has a lot of teams that they approve that don't seem to quite make it. But this one seems to be on its way. So it's scheduled in for this next year. We'll see. Anyway, looking at it, it's all I found were these two things here: the rockers, the little triangle or little base path sort of outline, and a rocking chair with its arms made of baseballs shooting forward, and then HP over a rocker with a baseball on it at the end of it. It's okay. The name Rockers, I gave it a 3. Again, not something that's terribly inspiring or all that. Individuals where it just jumps out at you. It probably has something to do with local history. Maybe a factories there made rockers or something. I don't know. Okay, so but 3. Color scheme, the red and orange or red and yellow that kind of fade into each other, and some blue there as well. And I think it's gonna be mainly red and yellow fading in. It's okay. Again, it's a 3. I don't know why we're doing all these fading into each other things anymore, but there it is. IDing it with the name, what's on the hat with the name, could not find a picture of a hat for these folks yet. They didn't apparently have a shop up running yet, so I couldn't look and see. I'm going to say if they go with that HP, it's going to just be a solid 3. It'll be okay. If they use the other one with the rocker on it, again, a little bit too busy, but a 3, nothing terrible there, nothing great. The attractiveness is a little bit goofy, taking a rocking chair and making it your logo, but that's not terribly unusual in minor leagues anymore, and it's not a bad logo. It's not a purposely really incredibly bad logo like you run into a lot of times. So again, just a 3 down the middle for attractiveness. And identifying the logo with the name, well, they call themselves the Rockers. There's a rocking chair on the logo that they've got, and I'm going to go with, yeah, that's pretty good at identifying what the name is with the logo, because in my house we didn't call them rocking chairs, we called them rockers, and I'm pretty sure that's fairly common around the South. I don't know if it's the whole nation, but it is, so fairly common. I think it identifies it pretty well. Overall, the High Point Rockers got a 3.2, so they're our first team in the 3s, and a decent logo. The Nashville Sounds, they are the number 6 team on the list. Now, they didn't change their name. They just changed their logo, I think, and so they used to have a pick with an N in front of it, and they got rid of the pick and made it a circle logo, and it's kind of a step backwards, but they're entitled to do it if they want to. The name, obviously, the name's still the same, Sounds. I just went with that's a 5. That's just straight up, it's a good name. The color scheme, black and red, good color scheme, solid color scheme. The colors pop. I gave it a 4. IDing what's on the cap with the team, that sort of thing. I like the old thing with the pick and the N on it. They kind of changed. I think they've changed the font some on the N, and so I looked at that and went. I actually checked to see if they'd become a Mets affiliate. To be honest with you, they've not. And beyond that, I mean, it's kind of dull. I mean, it's good color scheme, but it's dull. I gave it a 2 because mainly it would be a 3 most of the time, I think, but because it's a step backwards, I gave it a 2. Attractiveness, solid down the middle attractiveness. So the circle logo is nothing impressive, but it's nothing terrible, so it's a 3. And the ID on the, having to do with the name, the N, of course, identifies as Nashville. The circle around it's got Nashville Sounds on it, but it's not really anything that identifies, no kind of notes, no kind of pick, no kind of anything that identifies it as sounds. So I gave it a 3. This one ended up with a 3.4, folks. I mean, it's just kind of a shift. Not a great shift, like I said, maybe a slight step backwards. So that's where they ended up, 6th. The Milwaukee Milkmen. I'm not kidding you. That's the name of the number 5 team. The Milkmen, kind of a creepy webpage if you go look at it. But we're just talking about the logos and that here today. So they are a new American Association team, obviously in Milwaukee, and they have chosen Milkmen as their logo. And you can see it here. It's a guy standing there kind of in an old-fashioned uniform that milkmen used to wear. I don't know, maybe they've still got milkmen up north. I haven't seen one anywhere south of Cincinnati or south in 20 years, maybe 30 or 40 more like. But maybe they've got him still up north. But it's kind of an old-fashioned uniform, bow tie and all that. He's holding a bat. So if it didn't have the name Milkman on it, you wouldn't know particularly what he was. But let's run it through it. The name, I give it a 4. It's a fairly solid name. It's alliteration, Milwaukee Milkmen, that sort of thing. It's not bad. It's a theme they can work with. Okay. Color scheme, black and white. Good, solid color scheme, so I'm okay with that one. I think it's okay. I think it's a really solid colors you can use and makes for good uniforms. A 4. IDing what's on the cap with the name, well, they just use the same logo on the cap as they appear to be doing everywhere, so it works out pretty well. I gave it a 3 down the middle because if it didn't write Milkman on it, you really wouldn't know it's a Milkman, but it's a pretty decent cap. Attractiveness, the black and white and the kind of silhouette and everything, it works out pretty decent. Not spectacular, but decent, so I gave it 3 there. And identifying the logo with the name, the fact that they write Milkman on it saves it really, but if you look at it a little bit, you can kind of see that, it's got an old-fashioned uniform and all that. So, again, 3, just straight down the middle. The Milwaukee Milkmen overall got a 3.4 because they're new and really kind of putting it together, and I think they put a bit better effort in it. They got moved up a little bit above the Nashville Sound, which were the same score as them. At number 4 are the Syracuse Mets. Look, I'm not a big fan of the just assuming the name of the mothership type of affiliations. I live down the road from a whole bunch of Appalachian League teams which just always assume the mothership's name. I'm not particularly thrilled by that, but they do. Hence, I have a Kingsport Mets hat, right? Probably my favorite beat-up old cap. Although I don't wear it too much now because the Greenville Reds are around. So, they do it, and they all the Mets use that Mets logo or Mets font, and that's what the Syracuse Mets have done, right? They've used the Mets font, and it's kind of cheating, but it's a solid thing that reaches you because of the Mets, right? So, as far as calling themselves the Syracuse Mets, I said that was a 4. Pretty solid, okay, above average because Mets, right? As to the color scheme, it's the one flaw of the Mets. They generally while they can do it pretty well, generally they put way too much of that orange in with the orange and blue, and it ends up being a average color scheme. So that's a 3. IDing it with the logo, or the IDing it on the cap. Look, their cap is an orange bill with an orange S on a blue hat, and it is Mets. Syracuse Mets, solidly there. So it's going to work out just fine. That gets a 4, right? You're going to know what that is. Attractiveness, the orange and blue, the S is kind of cool, but the orange and blue isn't the most attractive thing in the world. So average, 3. And IDing it with the name. Well, they went with the S, with the Mets look, with the Mets font. It's going to be Syracuse. It actually works out pretty well. I'm going to give this one a 4 because that's what the Mets do, and it works out pretty well for them. Overall, this averaged out to a 3.6, and we're getting into a little higher and higher scores. At number 3, we've got the Fresno Grizzlies. It's not a renaming, it's just a reworking of their brand. And I gotta say, looking at it, the F with the claw marks across it is pretty cool. I like that one. That's pretty solid. Other than that, remaking the bear, so instead of just walking along as the typical California bear, Ursula extinctus, I'm not sure what the actual name of it is, but it's an extinct bear from California that they're very proud of. It is, it's been made into an attacking bear, which, okay, that's pretty cool, pretty decent. It's a little bit weird that they put claw marks across the bear as it's attacking. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, it's kind of one of the weird things about it. But the name, Grizzlies, 5 points. Straight up, good name, solid. Everybody understands what it is. It's not a problem. And good. Color scheme, they're kind of reddish, red and black, and that works out pretty well. It's okay. I gave it a 4. IDing what's the cap, with the actual team. Their home cap is the bear with the slashes across it on a red cap. I gave that a 3. If it was just a bear, it'd be easily identifiable as to what it is. The flashes just kind of make it a little bit more confusing. I guess it's supposed to make it more impressive and actiony and all that, but it just kind of, why are there slashes across the picture of a bear? And yeah, okay. Moving on from that, as far as attractiveness, I mean, it's, some of it's, the F is fairly attractive. The rest of it, the color scheme's okay, pretty attractive. The, overall, it's just a straight up 3 as to attractiveness, And IDing the logo with the name, well, they've got a bear on their logo, and they're called the Grizzlies, and it works. It's a good logo for the name. So they ended up with an average, that was a 4. They ended up with an average of a 3.8, which makes them a solid 3rd place in our rankings. At number 2, we have the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. Now, I got to admit, Fayetteville Woodpeckers are my favorite for this year, but when I actually did the points out, they didn't come up on top. So here's what we got. I mean, I apologize here. I don't have, I couldn't find one big thing with all of their logo stuff on it. So there's, the logo with the Fayetteville Woodpecker standing there, with a bat sitting above the name. There's the Fayetteville, just the head floating above Fayetteville Woodpeckers. And of course, there's the F, which looks like it's had a woodpecker working on it, right? Cursive F, which may confuse the young kids, since apparently they aren't teaching them cursive anymore. Why not? I don't understand, but okay. Getting back to on point, name, Woodpeckers. 5.0, just a straight, solid, good name. No problems there. And everybody knows what a woodpecker is, and it works. Color scheme, it looks like black, gray, and white. It pops pretty well. It looks pretty decent. 4. IDing what's on the cap. Well, and the attractiveness of the cap and all that. It's the head of the woodpecker on the cap. It's large enough, it's bold enough, it's simple enough. You can see what it is and know what it is, and it's a good cap. So I gave it a 4. Attractiveness, I just went with a straight 5 here. I think this is really, it's well drawn, it's sharply drawn, it's done, put together well, and it's just attractive. It really is. And as far as does it ID with the name? Well, obviously, if you're going with the woodpeckers, like the woodpecker head or the woodpecker body logos, it does. The cursive F, which has been pecked on by a woodpecker, maybe not so much. So I kind of dinged them a little bit for that. So it's only a 4. They are the first team that made it over 4 at 4.4, a really solid, good score, and so they are the number 2 team. I was kind of looking forward to seeing if they were going to come up with the Fayetteville Generals, because that's what they were when I was in Fayetteville, back when I was in the Army. Of course, that was when in the Stone Ages, but they came up with a pretty solid name and logo and everything, and I'm fairly impressed. And finally, our number 1 team with the best name and logo this year is the Round Rock Express. They just hit it out of the ballpark here. The color scheme, red, white, and blue, of course, Texas, and it's just well done. This is an extremely well done logo. Kind of thing that you could hold on to for 50 or 100 years. It won't, because they'll be talked into rebranding it in 10 years, or they'll be talked into moving in 20 years when they are trying to blackmail the local place to get them a new stadium. But, it's a really good logo, and they should do everything in their power to stick with this thing. Let me go through this bit by bit. The name, Round Rock Express. It's a pretty good name. Obviously something to do with an express train or something like that, or train. Not super solid. It doesn't hit it out of the ballpark, but I gave it a 4. Really solid name. Color scheme. Again, red, white, and blue. It's kind of the whole Texas thing. You're always going to get red, white, and blue. It always works. It's a solid, tried, and proven color scheme, and it really works here. And it works well the way they played it with the locomotive E, which has got the red around it and the white. The RR, which is red and white. The circle. It's just well done. Good color scheme. 5 straight up out of the color scheme. Identifying what's on the cap. I like the cap. It is the E that's made into a locomotive with a star. It's pretty doggone cool. It's a really good logo. And now I did dock it for a point because maybe you don't know what that means express-wise, or express or anything. If it sticks around long enough, hopefully it'll be like, everybody knows what a Toledo Mud Hen is, right? Everybody knows what Durham Bulls are. Maybe if this one can stick around long enough, it can become one of those, because it's that good a logo, folks. But I gave it a 4 on the, on IDing it on the cap and everything. Attractiveness, straight up 5. Out of all these logos that are in this up there, the only one that's kind of iffy is the Round Rock with the kind of yellow and orange colors above it, which I guess are supposed to be the sunset or sunrise in Texas. But still, that's not a bad logo. It's just not as good as the other logos they put together. So, 5 on attractiveness. IDing it as the name, well, you know, the RR will identify as Round Rock, you know, anytime. The E, you know, Express may have a little bit of trouble there, but it's pretty good. The one in the Texas, you know, it's obligatory. If you have a Texas team, you have to have some sort of logo that's got Texas in it. And that one, maybe not so much. So I ended up giving that a 4. It's really solid. You know, not an absolute home run, but really solid. And Round Rock ends up with a 4.4. I think it is just barely point wide. Actually, I got to admit, it's barely above the Woodpeckers. And it's the best one of the year. This is the one of all these I see. This is the one I see perhaps being one that sticks around forever. Whereas the Woodpeckers, while it's a really good one, I can see in 10 years, 5 years, them changing that to generate more publicity. Just the way it works anymore nowadays. Hopefully the Express stays around for a long time. Okay, that's it. If you got any comments, down below. If you like what you see here, you know, hit subscribe and hit the little bell wherever it is nowadays, so that you actually get notifications when I put up a video. And, you know, if you want to contact me, you can do it on Twitter. Direct message me at LammersK. And I'll be happy to take the message. I can't guarantee that I will get into the comments and messages and that, because, you know, I have this thing called a job that it's really inconvenient. It seems to take a lot of my time up for some reason. But they do pay me money for that, as opposed to this is just fun, right? Anyway, that's all there is for today, folks. You say what I always say. Go watch some minor league sports. See you next time.